It's Florida State versus Florida prediction time, and the Noles get a commitment.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. Happy Thanksgiving weekend. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. It is Florida State, Florida prediction time. I mean, there's really not much left to talk about. Going to go over that. But also, this is an unusual Friday show for me. That's usually all I focus on. Florida State on Thanksgiving of all days flipped a recruit, Jordan Scott. I want to talk about him at the end of the show, but again, we'll talk Florida State versus Florida, the big matchup in Doak Campbell. I'm going to break down the game in terms of how I think the game flow needs to go for Florida State to be successful and some keys. So let's jump right in. Number one, this is a game where Florida State's not going to be quote unquote generic with their offense or their defense and be successful. It is going to require the Noles to be not just proactive, but completely outside the box in some regards. And here are the reasons why. On both sides of the ball, I'll give you one key. Let's just start with the defense for the Gators and what they did to Ole Miss. It caused some problems. They gave up a bunch of yards, sure. But Ole Miss has a ton of talent, certainly more than Florida State does this year, out wide at receiver. And even with Trey Harris getting hurt in that game, he had the one bomb for a touchdown. They found ways to be creative with over routes, giving Florida fits. That is not something that FSU has been good at this year. Well, they need to use that against Ole Miss because that front is going to cause problems because if they do anything similar to what they did to Ole Miss, and their offensive line certainly better than Florida State's, about everybody's is, they're going to get problems. And they also zone blitz, do different things like that. If they want, they'll probably have a few nuances. But they have a late movement blitz that they showed against Ole Miss several times. They never did anything. Line shifts. Down comes another guy from the second level, whether a safety, linebacker, maybe both. I don't expect Florida State to handle that much. So if you're not hitting over routes, connecting on bombs, etc., Florida State's going to be in trouble because I have zero faith, and I highly doubt many of you do either, that Florida State's going to consistently pass protect for Luke Kromenhoek. Why would you? Florida State has been bad this year in a million different ways up front. And their defense is not great by any stretch, but it's played much better the last couple of weeks and at least showed signs of resiliency. So you got to hit chunk yardage plays. On the other side of the ball, when Florida State's on defense, DJ's a really weird player to defend. There's no way to practice for him. He's massive. This is like an NFL filled out player in terms of his just girth. He's 230, 240, somewhere in that range, and he's put together. You're going to have to hit him again, and hit him again, and hit him. You must get to the quarterback. Now, Florida State can rush the passer, but you're also going to have to be creative. It's not like Napier and his staff don't know what the Noles are going to do. They're going to try to play pressure, and they're going to try to put him in situations where he has to throw dimes with a guy in his face. That's always hard, and I know he's good at it, but it's still your best chance. If you just played zone against him, he'd pick you apart. He's a pretty accurate guy when he's given a chance, but most teams are going to come after it. Most importantly here, this key could create turnovers. He's been fortunate on a few of his throws where he's being hit when he throws or he's about to and he can't really step into it. Eventually, one of those is going to go the other direction. It even happens to guys like Aaron Rodgers. It can certainly happen to a freshman in college. FSU needs to get after him, and if Florida hits some big plays, so be it. You tip your cap and you move on. They've never been a zone soft team with Surtain in the secondary. As the coach, I don't expect that to change, and I know Florida fans are probably excited about that, but that's why you play. This game historically has always had tremendous defensive backs on both sides of the ball. I expect FSU to man up. I expect some different fire blitzes. They might throw in some different zone looks or something, again, to create some havoc with the freshmen, but they're going to get after it. They're going to get after it, try to get him on the ground early in the game to get him out of rhythm. Because if he starts hot, this game's over. Florida's going to be able to run the football, and that is the second point. if they are able to successfully run the ball on first down, you're going to have problems. DJ is arguably the best young deep ball thrower that I've seen. He's certainly top 5, at least in the last 3-4 years. I don't know if I'll see anybody better than Blondie as a true freshman. I know he's not created that incredible plays for the Jacksonville Jaguars, a lot of people thought, but former Clemson quarterback was good. And there's also, Deshaun Watson, different guys too, another Clemson guy that was really good early in his career. You can pick some others, but DJ's in that category. He's in that category. If you give him a chance to get some rhythm, get some confidence early, and they're running the ball at 2nd and 5, 2nd and 4, he is going to murder you. He's not completely healthy, I don't think, but nobody is. You've got to make him move off his spot and throw on the run. Make it more difficult. If not, again, this game will be over and in a hurry. Florida State's defense misses too many tackles and has not consistently been good with run gap fits this year. The young linebackers are playing better. I have completely fallen in love with that fact because there for a while it was like, can somebody just be consistent? That has changed, but they still don't do it well enough to make me feel comfortable that, well, really they've got 3 pretty good running backs at Florida. I'm not going to pick any one, but the guy that I'm really curious about is Jaden Ball, another freshman. He's a Texas kid too. If both the Texas guys are running and throwing and doing things like that, they've already got, obviously, Johnson's their number 1 back. But if those guys are running the ball well on first down, Florida State will be hammered in this game. Third, take it however you want, but this category is kind of fun to look at in a sense for both teams. We've already talked about it a little bit. Chunk yardage plays for DJ, that's what he does. But Florida State needs to do this well too. You're not going to move the ball consistently, so you got to hit some. But I also want to see plays from the Florida State coaching staff that are new. Formation that we haven't seen. Trick play we haven't seen. A combination route that we haven't seen. So in other words, Florida is completely looking at something and like, okay, this is something they normally run, this formation, whatever. But then the play call itself is completely different. Yes, I'm meaning bringing out something you did not use the entire season. You are not better than Florida. If you're not creative, you will not beat Florida. This is 100% on the Florida State coaching staff. You got rid of the offense coordinator. This is 100%, in my opinion, Norvell. Not only does he have to come up with new things, the players have to believe in it. The offensive coaches have to believe in it, and they have to practice and execute it on game day. It's not an easy task, but you're not going to win this game straight up. You need to scheme up at least 1 touchdown, 100% based on the play call, where basically somebody's running scot-free. I've said this in a couple other games, and they failed. Whether it was the player, whether it was the coach. Sometimes guys are open, and it didn't work. There was an over route that Luke missed in a game earlier this season, wide open. He decided to go with his first read, who didn't come off of it. Guy comes wide open. His second read would have been a touchdown, threw a wheel route. Can't do that. So that wouldn't have been on Norvell. That's on Luke. But that's the kind of play they got to do. And they got to make it clear to these young players, a bunch of freshmen and sophomores, especially for the Noles offense, is going to play. So they need to make it clear, hey, you've got to be able to do this. On the other side, defensively, again, I know they're a little bit straightforward with their defensive philosophy. Man defense, here we come. They're going to have to mix it up at least a couple of times to make DJ think, get off his spot, give the defensive line and or the linebackers a chance to get home, create a defensive play that's either a turnover, maybe a 4th down stop. Again, 100% based on what the coaches are doing. 0 to do with what the player is doing. This is rare, but you got a lot of young guys at linebacker. The defensive line's been inconsistent this year, and while the secondary has talent, it's not playing to a level that it should because there's still been some busts this season. You need a freebie on that side of the ball as well. 100% play call. Is that fair? No, too bad. You're 2-9. You put yourself in this situation. You got to get yourself out of it. When we come back, we're going to continue talking about some of the keys to the game and a final score prediction next on Locked On Seminoles. Have you downloaded the Gametime app yet? Gametime allows you to get tickets to games like the Florida State-Florida game, and it also allows you to get tickets to things like theater, going to a movie, baseball game, or just about anything else that you want to do with yourself, loved one, or friends, it's very easy. You can download it right on your phone and you can see the seat. This is my favorite part about the Gametime app. You can see the seat once you click on a ticket and view the field. It's the best part of the entire app, in my opinion, because there's always that curiosity. Just how good is my view? If I'm going to pay to go to this event, how good is it? Gametime app allows you to do that. And as far as finding something to do, you can find that really easy with Gametime Picks. It allows you to go and look at things that, based on the app, that you can see different deals in your area that you may not have known about that are great opportunities for you to save you some money, and it also saves you some time. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime Picks. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. This game is also going to require quite a bit of leadership for Florida State to have a chance. When DJ makes a play, when Jaden Ball gets a nice run, when they get a sack, you must see more leadership. This team has sucked in that category for Florida State this year. There's no friendly. I mean, you got 2 wins. It is time. They started to show some resiliency last week, and I know it was Charleston Southern, but the key for me to say that they did show resiliency is once they started playing well, they didn't let up. The next play is the only one that matters. That's a big part of leadership. And it was that way on both sides of the ball. Okay, that's what you must have if you're going to win. However, you're going to have more adversity, obviously, when you're playing a rival, and it's a team like Florida that has way more talent than Charleston Southern. So you need to figure out, even if you get down 10-0, or if you're up 10-0 and things are going good, you have a punt blocked and they score. Jaden Ball runs for 65 yards, whatever it is. You have to be ready to make a play on the next snap and erase it. Can Florida State do that? The only time I've consistently seen that was the mid-September to early October. There were some games where the defense played good, especially that Cal game where they just bowed up. Didn't look good, but they found a way. Leadership was a part of it. If not, again, this game will get away from the Noles. They have to find a way to be resilient. Finally here, these two things go together, turnovers and pressuring DJ. Obviously, Florida State can't put the ball on the ground, and Luke can't make poor decisions with his post-snap reads. That's so blatant. I'm not going to go into that. But let's just focus on when the Gators have the football. If you're going to create turnovers, you need at least one of them to create a momentum-changing play, not just they have a turnover at the FSU 33. Okay, that's nice. You get the ball, solid field, but no big deal. You need a turnover like on the first play of a drive, second play of the drive, something like that, to open the third quarter. Let's say the Gators get the ball. They fumble at their own 22-yard line because DJ gets smacked. They don't see the blitz coming. They do a weight change on what they're going to do at the line of scrimmage. The O-line doesn't pick it up. Pop the ball loose. You get first down and 10 at the Florida 15. You need one of those. Pass pressure and turnovers. Talked about it a little bit earlier in the show. It is absolutely paramount. Throughout the game, I don't care if he throws 25 dimes in a row. Pressure, blitz, pressure, blitz. Make him throw while he's getting the crap beat out of him. End of story. Physically, he must come out of that game thinking, I can't wait to see Tylenol or whatever. If not, you're probably going to get croaked pretty quick in this. They're going to choke you out real fast. It's not going to work. They have too many things going for them in the running game to let DJ sit back there and throw it as it is. And I'm concerned about some of the run gap bits. You're going to have to create negatives. Finally, again, with pressuring DJ, it's a momentum thing just in general, just getting to the quarterback. That's always part of it. So with that, I still don't see how Florida State wins this game because I think the offense will be inconsistent. Prove me wrong. But I think the Gators will hit a few big plays, and he's a very talented young man. But I'm still worried about, more than anything else, what does Florida State do if they get into a bad spot? If they get down 10-0, 14-0, something like that, what's the leadership like? I want everybody to think about that. Is the leadership good when they have a bad play? What's the body language like? Did the players and the coaches seem to be on the same page? Do we see some things in terms of play calling, not just offense, but defense, that's a little out of the box? Again, he's a freshman quarterback. There's a lot of things he hasn't seen. It's not normal for Florida State to do this, but they need to come out of their shell a little bit of just playing man. They need to mix it up. Some zone fire blitz, a different front than they normally, whatever, and give him a lot to think about and make him process. When he just knows where he's going with the football, he's a much more advanced player than a freshman. So with that, I've got Florida winning 31-14. I think that this game will be pretty much over by the end of the third quarter. I don't think that Florida State's offensive line will be able to handle Florida, and I think they will be sacked 5 times or more because Luke is not ready for that kind of pressure. And on the other side of the ball, I think they'll outplay what most think. I do think there'll be a couple of big plays in the run game. I think Florida will run for like 175 yards and just kind of body blow Florida State to death. And DJ will hit at least one big play down the field that's either A, a touchdown pass, or B, set up a short run for a score. When we come back, I'm going to talk about Florida State's new commitment. They got one on Thanksgiving. That is next on Locked On Seminoles. Get ready to tackle NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the National Football League. Jordan Scott has committed to the Florida State Seminoles, 6'7" wide receiver. He's a JUCO that was originally committed to Arizona State. I was just looking at some of his film right before the show. At 215, give or take, this is a guy that is a mismatch problem. Yes, if you're thinking Johnny Wilson, you were smart to do so. He has a lot of Johnny Wilson qualities in terms of his style of play. The first play on his highlight reel is a ridiculous one-handed catch between two guys that he just stuck his hand out. It was a little bit too far away, but his length, natural athleticism, and hand-eye coordination allowed Jordan Scott to make the play. I wouldn't say he's a true burner, but he could run pretty well. And most importantly, he's competitive and willing to play in the middle of the field even when he's going to get hit. The third play, I believe it was on his film, he runs a slant, gets hit at the goal line, and continues on and scores. If he's physical like that, and he's a big guy, he has a chance to be a really good player at Florida State. He's going to have a couple of years of eligibility, and at 6'7", 215, this is a guy that Florida State can use almost like a tight end. And you add him to Amari Williams, Landon Thomas, Hakeem Williams. The size for the Noles at receiver and tight end should be a big-time addition to what they can do moving forward, because Luke can throw the deep ball. Now you're going to have so many options in the red zone for fades. You might even see a little bit of that in the Florida State-Florida game. But having one that's 6'7" at receiver is not common. Johnny Wilson was a rare player. And I'm not saying Jordan's going to have that same kind of success, but physically in the film, just proves it. He can do those things. Now it comes down to route running, being a willing blocker, being a willing player to not always be the feature player. Like at Florida State, you're going to be playing with other good receivers. They got plenty like in their freshman class, like B.J. Gibson, or Wayne McCoy, etc., Elijah Moore, whatever you wanted, Fryer, just those guys. That's 4 really good football players. You're going to have to share the ball. How good of a teammate is he? All those things play into it too. But physically, I'm very excited to see what Jordan Scott can do, and I'm curious. I don't know if he's going to be in spring ball, if he's got to go through spring to graduate from the school he's at. He's at Southwest Mississippi Community College. I don't know, but I do know this. If you get him on campus and he gets acclimated with Luke next season, that's a guy that can score a lot of touchdowns. So Florida State fans should be very happy about that. By the way, stealing him away from Arizona State wouldn't normally be all that great of a deal, but Arizona State's program is on the rise. and they're pretty good. By the way, it's the same school Johnny Wilson came from, so when he transferred to FSU. Last thing on recruiting, well, Jesse Harold is taking the visit. I mentioned that on yesterday's recruiting pod. Make sure if you want a rundown of recruiting, check out the Thursday show on Locked On Seminoles. It is very, very much an intuitive thing, or it's just listening to the names. Here's visiting, here's why. It's pretty straightforward, but at the same time, that's an interesting guy. He decommitted from LSU. I did not know that at that time, but I did the pod yesterday. So not only do the Noles get Jordan Scott, they're getting a guy possibly on campus this weekend that they should flip. Most people think that he will. He's from Gaither High School in Tampa, Florida, long lead edge rusher. That's a really good sign for Forest. They need defensive linemen. That would be a big pickup. Please make sure you like and subscribe to this podcast. And if you have not already, hit that subscribe button. And once again, make sure you share this podcast. I'd love to get in front of as many Florida State fans as possible. It's a lot of fun doing this pod. And we're getting ready to go into the signing day week. We're getting ready to go into the transfer portal. I'm going to have so many different profiles coming up. It's not even funny. And we will do a live show after the Florida State-Florida game, talk about what happened. That will be on Saturday, obviously. Curious to see how that game goes. But thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen. Everybody have a good one, and I will see you again on Saturday.